as a coach, I'm also here to remind clients like where the mind goes, the body follows. And sometimes you have to bring yourself back home, reminded that it's safe and that you're going through a transition period. So our self narrative can make or break us. And, the more aware we become, we have to make sure that we're balancing our perspective as like, okay, we're using this to add value to ourselves, add value to the people involved. And if it's not adding value, then we need to reflect or maybe just ignore those thoughts. So that's why, like, the second part of my program, which is the next 3 months, we really, really, really focus on mindset, because that is, food is foundation, but mindset is what makes things manifest.
Hello, and if this is the first time you're listening to It Takes a Village, thank you and welcome. I'm so happy to have you here. If you are returning and you are coming back, thank you for also being here, rocking with me. And I have a couple of requests before we even start this episode. Number one, if you are listening to this episode and you love it, please share it with a friend. Organic reach is the best reach. And if you feel inclined, which I hope you do, please leave us a written review on Apple, and that helps boost the show organically. It's a great way for you to give back to the show that gives to you. And number three, the newsletter. We have a newsletter. Head over to ittakesavillagepod.com and scroll down to the bottom, fill out the information, and we will send you information. You can also check out more details and more show notes. Everything that you want to know and are interested in about the show is updated there. Okay, let's get into this episode. Hey everybody, welcome back to It Takes a Village. I'm your host, Delina, and today is a very special episode where we talk to an expert about my current obsession, figuring out inflammation, clearing up my acne, finally figuring out how to lose the lower belly fat that has just been stuck on my body since I feel like I can ever remember. There's so many different reasons as to why to do this, but this is something that brought together a lot of different modalities for me. So literally for the past 2 years, I've been trying to figure out why a lot of stuff had happened over the past like 5 to 10 years. I had experienced depression. I experienced lack of focus. I experienced ADHD. I experienced all of these different feelings, all of these different things that really consumed me. And they were all I could do. And sometimes I would really want to get something done and I just couldn't focus. Why I was having all of these weird cravings for things. So I kind of went on this unintentional but intentional dive into what I'm eating. So if you followed me for a long time, you are no stranger to understand that I've worked with nutritionists. I had IBS at one point. I was a vegetarian, pescatarian. Like I've tried so many different things. I feel like biohacking my body is something that is like had become a pastime for me. But I started to get fatigued, like when you get just so tired of just, well, maybe this will work. Well, maybe this will work. Well, maybe this will work. I've always been quite slim, so it wasn't really about losing weight. It was more about my skin. I have a career in makeup, and, looking at my skin is something that I do more than the average human being. And so becoming even more critical about it, I've just been trying to figure out what is it that I could do better so that my skin would clear up, because I've always known there was a connection between the gut and the skin. So I was on this journey, and I started like 2024 working with an Ayurvedic doctor after working with a nutritionist in I believe that was in 2019 maybe. I worked with a nutritionist and kind of rocked with that for a little bit. I did the Dr. Sebi diet. If you know the Dr. Sebi diet, I did that for a bit. I've done so many things, honestly. I'm mentioning it now because I didn't actually talk to Alex about all the things I've done. But Ayurvedic medicine I looked at. I have an acupuncturist who had introduced me to Chinese medicine, traditional Chinese medicine. So I've paid a lot of attention to that. And there is a diet called the Korean 8 type. It basically says this is your constitution. It's the 8 type constitution medicine. So I know I know who I am in all of these different things, but it wasn't until I met this information about the blood type diet. And this is a book done by Dr. Diadamo. It's called Eat Right for Your Blood Type. We mention it as the book during this episode. So if you're wondering what the book is, it's Eat Right for Your Blood Type. An excellent book that really breaks it down in detail. And that's what I've been following in order to implement the diet for myself. So I also would like to say that this is more of a lifestyle change. This feels like the final train stop. Like I finally have pulled into the station. My exhaustion and my fatigue in trying different things and figuring out what would work has finally been solved. I am stronger than I've ever been. I have more energy. My body is actually finally putting on muscle. I've been trying for years to put on muscle, and I can finally see it in it for so long. My lower belly, which has always carried a lot of weight, even though I've been slim, I've always had that. That has been correlated to a lot of inflammation in the gut area, is finally starting to go down. And it's not like I'm doing a lot more than I was doing before. It's more of just doing less, but doing the right things. So if you're somebody who has struggled with any of these things, fatigue, focus, ADHD, IBS, any of these things, I would highly, highly, highly recommend listening to this episode. Hopefully it resonates with you. Alex Ayodele is an expert, and she had a super viral video that so spoke to me. My friend Denise Sanchez sent it to me, and I was like, wait, I need to check this out. Within weeks of trying it, I noticed a difference similar to her, and it just has been life-changing. I've mentioned it so much in my Instagram stories, and I'm like, okay, it's time to take it further. It's time to share even more of the knowledge. So I hope you really love and enjoy this episode and find it interesting. Even if you don't even apply it, just find it interesting. Maybe it's one of those things that's a seed that's planted in the back of your mind. Maybe you explore it at a later date, but it is very exciting. It's very interesting, and I learned a lot. I almost forgot I was recording a podcast because I was so busy trying to get all the information from Alex. So before I go, if you have not yet checked out the Build Your Village video ebook, it's 15 lessons and homework and video from me that helps you learn how to build your network. I would highly recommend to check that out if you're somebody who's like, how do I meet more people? How do I network? How do I find people that I want to connect with that will want to connect with me? Also, subscribe to the newsletter. Head over to ittakesavillagepod.com and sign up for the newsletter and leave us a review. You know what to do. All right, this has been a little lengthy this time, but I just had to share my experience. And with that, let's get into this episode. All right, everybody, welcome back. We have Alex Ayodele here today, who is the CEO, founder of Balcony People. I saw a viral video of Alex talking.
There are 3 categories of food for each blood type: highly beneficial, neutral, and avoid. And there are different lists of food for each blood type within those categories. So for example, type A. If you're a type A, you thrive on a plant-based diet. So if you're someone that's like, I'm going to jump on this ketogenic diet, I'm going to focus on proteins and high fats, you're probably going to gain weight. Why? Because you have the least amount of acid in your stomach, and you don't digest fats and proteins the same as a type O. Type O's. Type O is for old. That is the oldest blood type. It was the first one. So you have to think hunters and gatherers, game, root vegetables, have a really strong ability to go into ketosis. And if you're someone that's like, I'm going to go on the Daniel's fast, and you start eating whole grains, well, type O, your number one inflammatory food is gluten and dairy. So you're probably going to gain weight if you're eating a whole bunch of whole grains. And then type AB and type Bs, your number one lectin is chicken. Chicken is the number one consumed meat in the United States. It is a neutral food. It's not a highly beneficial food for any blood type. So it helps you understand that you're a bio individual. You need to learn your foods. You need to understand that we're not one size fits all. We have to figure out what works for us. And by using the blood type diet or the method as a strategy, you learn and build awareness around what you're doing with your fork, your feet, and your fingers.
And I feel like ever since I saw that video, my life has not been the same. So I reached out to her. So I reached out to her and was like, hey, can you please help explain the blood type diet to everyone? I mean, it's already, just from what I've personally implemented, I feel like it's changed my life, but I haven't even spoken to her personally yet. Like, it's just been DM. So I'm going to be asking questions for me and for you today. So Alex, welcome to It Takes a Village. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me. I'm honored.
I'm so happy you're here. So, okay, can you tell me? I read about you, and it said that you actually you lost your gallbladder at a very early age. Is that kind of what
Mm-hmm.
started you into health and wellness? Tell me how you got into this in general. Like, how did that start for you?
Yeah, so honestly, I come from both sides of my family. Like my mom, beast, triathlete, dad, football player, engineer. But both sides of my family, holistic healers, just very like holistic natural practices. I ran track, I danced, I modeled. My body has always been my machine. And I suffered though. I had acne as a younger woman, as a young child. I had like the breakouts on my forehead. And I had a very sensitive stomach. But in 2009, I had my gallbladder removed, which at the time I thought alleviated all my problems
Hmm.
because once you have your gallbladder removed, then you have to follow a strict protocol when it comes to food. So no spicy food, no fried foods, eliminate red meat, reduce your gluten, sugar, like very restrictive. And honestly, like all my problems went away. Like my acne cleared up. I lost weight. Everything started. I became a better athlete, but still very restrictive. And I wasn't until about fast forward to 2016 when I was working in the hospitality industry and I worked for Culinary Creative. It's a restaurant group in Denver. All learned about like high quality sourcing, why it's important to know your farmer, why it's important to have a relationship with the people that are cooking your foods in your neighborhood. But also, I started eating things that I hadn't eaten ever or haven't eaten in a really long time since having my gallbladder removed. And, I was in my early 20s and I started experiencing indigestion. It sounded like
Mm.
Dory was actually like in my stomach making whale sounds anytime
Mm.
that I ate. And called my mom, going through something again. Can you help me figure out who I need to see? And went to a bunch of different specialists, got tested for celiac. Nothing was, I could never get an answer. They just like, all right, like nothing's here, come back, or like go get like just next door, next door, next door.
Mm.
And so my auntie Steph, man, it's the
Shout out
aunties,
to Auntie
right?
Steph. Yeah, no, shout out to Auntie Steph.
I was telling her everything that I was going through, and she like opened up her little holistic cabinet, grabbed me some enzymes, put me together a little concoction, and then she was like, let's talk about an elimination diet. And what blood type are you? And I was like, I'm type A. She's like, I'm type A too. And she's like, let's start removing the foods that you should be avoiding. And, in 3 weeks, I was healed. 3 months, I was losing weight and leaner than ever. 3 years later, my whole life had changed inside and out. So that's how I got started
Whoa.
on the blood type. And yeah, that's the
Yeah.
start of it.
So is Auntie a nutritionist, or like is she like Auntie, like she knows, she just knew intuitively,
Got
like
that
how
wisdom.
you know,
She,
because the elders have the
she's,
wisdom. So I'm like,
yeah, right. She's a
yeah,
mediator by trade, but
okay,
healed herself and healed whoever came into her circle, through
mm.
the spirit. She never got paid for it, but is just a child of God that's really focused on learning and helping people, and that's it. Doesn't want to charge for anything. I keep telling her, like, come on, join my team, like, let's go.
Yeah. She's like, no, I'm good.
She's like,
Okay,
I'm good.
wait. So I read this book. So literally when I watched the video that you created, I was like, okay, I'm gonna go read this book. So it was like Eat Right
Hmm.
for Your Blood Type.
Hmm.
And I was like, okay, I'm gonna go read it. And then within that
Yeah.
book, I just
This
felt
one.
that's it. That's the book. That's the book. Do you have a book yet? Are you gonna I was gonna read your book. I was like, does this woman have a book yet?
It's
Is it
coming.
coming?
It's
Is it
coming. It's
coming?
coming.
Okay,
Hmm.
cool. I'm gonna read
Hmm.
that one too when that one
Hmm.
comes out, because I know it's
Hmm.
gonna have even more
Hmm.
in it. Especially like
Yeah.
I think about, men and women are so different, right? So I feel
Hmm.
like there's also added things that we need to understand. So just for context, the reason why I even got interested in what was going on with me personally, I've had issues with my skin for a very long time. I feel like that
Hmm.
has been the driving force, because I've been in the beauty industry, which I saw also you worked for Tata Harper for a bit.
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
So you've been,
Definitely.
and then you were a model. So I'm like, you're in entertainment
Hmm.
and in the beauty industry as well. And so it becomes a lot more stressful when it starts happening. Then you almost like you can't stop thinking about it, and you're just like, oh my gosh, what's going on? And so, um, I have worked with so many different nutritionists, like different people. And one of the first times I remember, and it kind of was an aha moment as I was reading the book, is that I wanted to be a vegan. And so my mind is very strong. So if I decide I'm going to do something, I don't need like, people are like, oh, I'm going to transition. I'm like, not tomorrow. No more meat. You know what I mean? So like your body needs time to catch up sometimes, you know?
Right.
So
Right.
I
Right.
started, I'm a bee, by the way.
Hmm.
So I went straight vegan, and I was eating so much soy, and it
Mm.
was,
Mm-mm.
when I tell you, my body was crazy inflamed from that. But I was just like, I'm vegan. Like,
Yeah.
what do you mean? Like, this is good for me.
Yeah.
And so, and then, by the way, when I came off of being a vegan, I was like, okay, I'm just gonna eat chicken. So
Oh gosh.
yeah, no, like, okay, so for everybody listening, I kind of want you to help explain a little bit more of like, I think maybe
Yeah.
I know you do this in depth, so I don't want you to, I feel like people need to come to you for like the juice of it to really
Hmm.
understand it. But if you could do like an overview of like
Yeah.
A, B, and O so people can
Hmm.
understand, that would be great.
Absolutely.
Okay.
So there are four blood types,
Mm,
and within each blood type, there are three categories of food: highly beneficial, neutral, and avoid. I like to talk about highly beneficial foods are your home base. Whenever you're going through a stressful situation, refer to your highly beneficials. Whenever you're trying to lose weight, to your highly beneficials. Any kind of transition, if you need to heal, you're prepping for a surgery, go to your highly beneficials. Your neutrals, those are a group of foods that add diversity. They don't sway you left and they don't sway you right, but they just add more excitement. It's a way for you to eat out, go to friends, enjoy holidays. And then there's a list of avoids. Now, avoid doesn't mean eliminate forever. I think as a society, we make things very black and white.
mm,
Avoid, and especially according to Dr. Diadamo, it's like this is something that triggers inflammation. And over time, if you continue to eat it over and over and over and over, it's going to cause and wreak havoc on your body because you're in a constant inflammatory state. So, type O. It's debatable between type O and type A. Who was the first blood type? I'm going to go with type O because Africa, motherland,
mm-hmm,
we were the first.
mm-hmm,
And, type O's are hunters and gatherers. They have a great metabolism, they have a strong immune system, they digest fats and proteins very efficiently because they have high levels of acid in their stomach. And they have a strong ability to burn fat because they go into ketosis. So when you think of hunter and gatherers, they weren't eating 24/7. They were hunting, killing, cooking, and then, going however many days without eating a giant meal again. So lean meats, vegetables, stay away from the dairy, the wheat. Those are super inflammatory. Legumes, um, you know, any kind of corn, but cow's milk product, definitely an avoid. So type A, the opposite almost. They're the cultivators. So think plant-based friendly, more calming exercise, have low stomach acid, so they don't digest fats and proteins as well, and have a fast metabolism as well, but can digest carbs. Like they can tolerate a more starchy diet because they're primarily eating plants. And anything that's going to make them sluggish is red meat, animals. So should stick to fruits, vegetables, soy, tempeh, lentils, legumes. And then, of course, like exercising, like I said, more calming practices, has a higher tendency to have high cortisol. So should really focus on keeping the peace and can stay lean by doing less.
I see. So no meat or less meat for A.
Yeah, so there's no highly beneficial meat for type A.
Ah, okay.
There's neutral, which is chicken and turkey. But anything red is an avoid.
Okay.
So then there's type B, the nomad. Like B is for balance, kind of the best of both worlds of an O and an A. But they are interesting because they're also known as hyperstimulators. So what that means is they easily and efficiently absorb nutrients and toxins. So whatever type B is eating, it needs to be wild caught, grass fed, grass finished, pasture raised, organic, because any of the herbicides, pesticides, metal toxicity, or environmental toxins that are absorbed into our soil, you're getting. So you want to keep, as a type B, because I know you are one, you want to keep those detox pathways efficient. But what makes you sluggish is chicken, corn, and what's another good one? Tomato. Too much of it. Yes. But also like processed foods, like fried foods, anything that's not a whole food. But the good thing about you is you're highly adaptive. You have a strong immune system. You can tolerate dairy. But again, as long as it's clean, it's not like the conventional processed dairy. It's like your A2, kefir. Like you have this strong ability to be able to digest it and benefit from it.
Okay. This makes sense because if I go and get like a coffee somewhere, like if it's like a proper like like we make our own beans and like like we use real milk and stuff like that, then I'm fine. But if I go to like one of those places it's like, oh yeah, we make coffee for everybody, I'm like like I start to notice like I'll break out or I'll have my skin is definitely like my first tell for me.
Yeah. It is for everybody, but it definitely shows up differently across the board when it comes to blood types. And then there's AB, which is enigma. They're complicated. They are a blend between A's and B's, and very sensitive people, and have a very sensitive digestive tract. They have a sensitive nervous system too. So, I'm if you're in the midst of chaos and you're eating, like your body's going to digest it very differently than what you're intending it to do. So, if that makes sense. But their protein digestion is more similar to an A, so it's weaker. So they do benefit from more like the fish, turkey. They can tolerate lamb, and then fruits and vegetables, but a cleaner, less complex diet, more straightforward. Make sure you have your complex carbs, protein, and a vegetable, and you're pretty good.
Okay, got it. So what's the biggest misconception? Because when I heard this, immediately I was like, oh, this is true. This
Mm-hmm.
worked. And I think I feel like if somebody does it even for 10 days, they'll feel enough of a difference where they'll be like, okay, yeah, I get it. Because it's like,
Yeah.
how long do you recommend that they try it for, like where they just completely commit to it? Because I know you have balcony people, which is your
Mm-hmm.
community surrounding this. Um,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. So tell me more about that.
You know, I'm a firm believer of like you got to commit to something for 90 days in
Okay.
order to really see the true insights of your personal data. Um, I will say that there's a specific way to implement this because not everybody's like, just like you said, like when I decide I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it. Not everybody's like that.
Mm-hmm.
And the blood type diet can feel very restrictive if you don't do it the right way. So, how I implement it with my clients is, I like to add more before I restrict. So, I introduce your highly beneficials, and we focus on those for 2 weeks. So, I'm like, still do what you do, but these are foods that you should be eating more of. So, let's add those. And
Okay.
then the next 2 weeks, I remove those. We talk about your voids, and then we remove your voids. And that's the only time of my program. It's a 6-month program where it could feel restrictive because for 2 weeks we're removing everything that isn't a void for your type, which
Okay.
a lot of people have. For type O, it's avocado, or cheese, or bread. Um, and people have very sentimental attachments to food. Food is emotional. So it just, but I always encourage them, this is a place of for you to detox, release. We store everything in our soft tissues, and once your body gets into this state where you're not in such a state of inflammation, you're going to start processing information that you receive much differently. And
Mm.
so, just sending out those words of encouragement. And then the next 2 weeks, we add in the neutrals because it adds in more diversity and makes people feel like normal again. And, what I love about the blood type diet is that it's sustainable because in the book, they say, like I said, it's an avoid. It doesn't mean eliminate. It doesn't
Mm.
mean when Thanksgiving's coming up, you're going to skip out on, Auntie's mac and cheese or the peach cobbler or, but it is gonna let you know, like, oh, I've omitted these foods from my diet, and if
Mhm.
I introduce them and I have a response that I never had before, it might be those foods, and that's your body communicating to you, and that's the whole purpose of it, is to build more awareness around what you're doing with your fork, your fingers. So, to answer your question, I recommend 90 days. The first
Okay.
3 months of my program is how I, do the first all nutrition. And then people realize, like, oh, it's more than just the food, it's also my habits.
Okay, so when you say that, so Auntie Steph, when she first started working with you, you said in 3 weeks you felt healed. What did that feel like? What happened where you were like, wait, I feel different now?
Yeah. So again, I said, and anytime I ate, I got bloated.
Same.
I and
Yeah.
that's a lot of people, right? Is
Mm-hmm.
anytime they eat something, they're like, "Oh my gosh, my stomach, my pants are tight." And then like for me, it felt like my whole digestive system shut down. Like it felt like it couldn't move, like I felt sluggish. So in 3 weeks that was gone. Like my bowel movements were
Mm.
normal. I was eating and felt normal. I didn't have like that pocket of air just filled up in the lower part of my jeans. And then I just felt like a more optimal human. I've always been very in tune with my body.
Uh-huh.
But this is when I was like, okay, I was able to make like clear, conscious decisions. And I knew, like, I would ask myself, like, I'd look at a plate of food and if it wasn't on my list and I was gonna cross that, take a risk, my body would be like, nah, we're good.
Yeah, I know, right? It's so funny. Like I feel like I'm like you. My body is so responsive. Like I
Yeah.
can feel it within minutes of eating something that I'm like,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I've seen you sometimes. I watch your stories, and sometimes you have like enzymes or something. If you know you're gonna
Mm-hmm.
have something, what is that? Is
Mm-hmm.
that something that you shouldn't rely on, but you should have in your medicine cabinet?
Yeah, they're like little cheat codes.
Okay,
Again,
okay.
I with my practice, like the whole intention of
Mm,
blood type is using it as a strategy to get people back to the basics, right? To get
yeah.
people back into the kitchens, more intentional about what they're eating.
Hmm.
However, again, holidays are coming up. People
Yeah.
tend to drink more alcohol. People tend to eat more sugar.
Mm,
We're eating a little bit more around the clock than we are moving. So, there's things like milk thistle or digestive enzymes, specific ones for whatever you're going through,
mm,
um, that will help you digest the foods that you should not be eating or help filter any excessive alcohol and help support your liver. Um, and I don't drink anymore.
same.
And but there was a time where on the weekends, like I was like, all right, let me get these milk thistle out so I can right my wrongs.
Yeah, exactly. Like, make sure I'm good. Let me get the milk thistle out. I love it.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so 3 weeks you're already noticing that you're digesting differently. Like you feel different, but you also look different, which is something I noticed as well as I've been implementing
Mhm.
it. I'm like, oh my gosh, like this lower belly fat that I always just looked at and was like, why is it like that? Like, why is it that no matter, because I'm quite active, like I lift heavy,
Mhm.
like I do Pilates, I'm like running, I'm doing
Mhm.
all this stuff, which is another thing I found out. I think I was overworking my adrenals a bit.
Mhm.
But
Mhm.
um
That's
that's a
another
whole
thing.
thing. Yeah, I want to talk about exercise with you too. Okay, so by 3 months, what's the difference? Because for me, what I'm noticing now is that mental fog starts to lift and I feel clearer.
Mhm.
And I feel like I
Mhm.
actually have the energy and the stamina to go through the
Yeah.
day, which is so cool. But what would you say by
Yeah.
3 months someone can expect to feel?
I mean, by 3 months, most of my clients have lost 12 pounds. And
Wow.
yeah. Mhm. So, like, guaranteed
On
weight is
average.
coming on average. Mhm.
Wow.
It's also like this is a very like high interpersonal connection where I'm coaching someone on not only their blood type but their daily habits. So there's also that with it. But um, guarantee weight loss, clearer skin, less
Mm-hmm.
phlegm. So like some people, such as blood type A or blood type AB, will wake up with like phlegm.
Mm-hmm.
Because blood type A's, they have high, if they eat a lot of fat and protein, they have higher blood viscosity. And what that means is your blood becomes super thick and less fluid. So it's more sluggish, and which, if your blood's sluggish, your whole lymphatic system is sluggish. So there's just less phlegm, the yellow stuff that we can spit out into the sink for the people that don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you have a better recovery of workouts, you're sleeping better, you have just more emotional capacity for those around you. You also have more energy because digestion, digesting food takes a lot of energy. And if
Mm-hmm.
you're eating the foods that are for you, you're actually supporting your digestive system because it's not working as hard anymore. So you are saving that energy in your reserve tank for other things like work, friendships, and self care.
Mm-hmm. I love that. So I want to go even further. So let's say you're doing this for 3 years. What's the difference now? Like, what are you feeling now that you didn't feel at 3 weeks and 3 months?
Man, you're superhuman. Like you are in
Yeah.
alignment. Your whole, not only is your body looking banging, but you
Snatched.
know, your detox, your detox pathways like
Yeah.
are completely cleansed.
Mm,
You just have more energy. You're operating as you should be.
mhm,
I mean, everybody's different though. And just from my personal experiences, like I was like, dang, if I had trained on blood type as a track
Mhm.
athlete, like I would have been a monster. I wish I would have
Mm.
known, and now I have two kids who I'm like, all right, they're
Mhm.
my little projects, but they're gonna be insane because it's like, all right, if somebody's injured, we're gonna know exactly your healing protocol. You start operating on another level, not only physically but emotionally. You start making more empowered choices, and when you make more empowered choices about the food that's on your plate,
Mhm.
it translates into every area of your life.
Okay. I love that. That's so great. I do feel more emotional capacity. I've been doing it for a few months now, and I feel more emotional capacity for people. And I would say I identify as like being more of an empath, but I felt like very I don't know, like weighed down by that. Like I was feeling
Mhm.
everybody, and now I don't necessarily I can feel them, but I'm not absorbing their energy. Is that something that happens, or is that something I'm maybe feeling just because I feel less inflamed?
I think that it could go both ways. I think it could
Okay.
be. I don't think there's a right or wrong answer. I think it's
Mm-hmm.
mostly about how, like, you're more empowered to make better decisions, and if you're more empowered to make better decisions with your food, then
Mm-hmm.
everything translates better. And for you, like, going back to like blood, it's like if we're, for you, a chicken, right? Okay, let me ask you a few questions. So you've
Yeah,
been on
tell
it for
me.
a few months, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
how your main concerns were skin,
Skin. Yep.
the
And
weight in your
honestly,
belly area,
yep. Yep.
and then energy.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what have you noticed?
I mean, I need to nap less. Also, I will say, like, I feel like I, girl, when I tell you, I feel like I'm perpetually tired. Like, I feel like I would go in spurts and then I'd be like, like, I'm so tired. I'd also say my period is better, which is kind of how I started
Yes.
on this whole journey to begin with. So last October, or no, not October, last, like Christmas time, I went to Costa Rica on my own. And I
Mhm.
was there and I had my period while I was there. It was the most painful period I had ever had. Like when I tell you I was like waking up in the middle of the night and taking like ibuprofen, everything across
Mhm.
like and I was like, "Oh yeah, they said drink hibiscus tea." I was drinking hibiscus tea every day. I wasn't doing
Mhm.
anything. I was like I was just trying like so badly to feel better and I was like, "Okay, this is the year that I solve this." Like I was like,
Mhm.
this is not normal. So I started to look into, and this is when I started to find out about blood sugar. Like I didn't
Mhm.
understand, like eating a balanced meal
Mhm.
because I knew it from training where people would be like, okay, protein, fat, carb, make sure that you have balanced amount of macros throughout the day. But I didn't realize that
Mhm.
keeping them balanced through meals was actually
Mhm.
helpful. So that's kind of
Mhm.
how it started in like the beginning of this year. And then now we're like 2 months towards the end of the year. And I'm like, okay, I've learned so much throughout this entire year. But I think what I also realized is that no matter how hard I would train, it's like my belly would just hold so much weight. Like my arms
Mhm.
were smaller and my legs were smaller, or I would get stronger, or I would go train and I would be so tired. Like I would do
Mhm.
lifting and I would be like, I'm so exhausted, I need to sleep. So I
Mhm.
feel more energized. My skin is also cleared up,
Your
like
skin is
massively.
gorgeous. Your skin
Thank
is
you so
skinny.
much. Thank you. I appreciate that. I feel
Mhm.
like, and that is like, I've been going through something ever since I moved over to the West Coast because it's been so dry here. So I've been like,
Mm.
okay, do
Where are
I
you
need to put
from?
humidifier from the East Coast? I'm from North Carolina.
Okay.
So yeah, and then I lived in New York for 10 years after that. So I was still on the East Coast and like humidity and it was great. You're in Florida, right?
Yeah, we're in
Yeah.
Florida, so that humidity is nice because originally from Denver, and
Yeah.
yeah, it's dry.
Yeah. So yeah, I yeah, exactly. It's so dry. I'm like, people just
Mhm.
living out here? Like
I know.
it's intense, but it's like it's beautiful, but I'm like, "Oh my gosh, it is so dry here." I left a
Mhm.
bowl of water outside my house for less than a day. I came back. I was like completely dry. I was
Yeah.
like, "Wait, that's crazy. That's how
Yeah,
my
that's what
skin
it's
feels."
doing. Yes.
That's what my
Mhm.
body's doing. So to answer your question, yes, I feel better. I feel like I have more energy. Biggest difference I would say is out of everything I've been doing over the past year, this has drastically changed how my period feels. Like I don't have the same
And
amount of
just in a
like
matter of what, 3 months?
less than I'm like probably
Less
like
than,
I'm probably in like 2 months. And I'm not
yeah.
even doing it. I feel I would even benefit more from working with you because then it would be like, okay, this is what we're doing for this 2 weeks. This is what we're doing for this 2 weeks, So it would be,
Mm-hmm.
but
Mm-hmm.
I noticed enough of a difference where I was like, I have to talk to Alex and like people have to know what she's doing because this is
Yeah.
incredibly healing.
Yeah, it is. I mean, especially like
Mm-hmm.
women going back to our periods, like
Mm-hmm.
there's a couple things here. Like people don't believe necessarily in the blood type diet because there's no scientific published studies, or the theory's been debunked by other studies. Um, what I believe, and I know we had previously when we were emailing, you're like, do you think blood type is more energy or intuition? And I think, a lot of the most amazing healers are hidden, right? And the number one question is, how do I get my blood type? How do I find out my blood type? Because you can't go in and get it anymore. They used to tell you all the time. They used to tell when your baby is born what blood type they are. They don't do that anymore because I
Mm-hmm.
think, blood is our biology. It's all different for a reason. And we live in this society where we're trying to make everybody fit into a one size fits all program when we're all meant to be different. And we're not wondering why strawberries have polyphenols and antioxidants, yet we're wondering why, you know, certain diets are working for us or not working for us. And I'm just like, sometimes you just got to leave it to God and trust that like your intuition is supposed to know.
Mm-hmm.
And, if you will put yourself in a position to actually think more thoughtfully about yourself, nutritionally, emotionally, and holistically, like it's just going to open other doors for you to get curious about. And for women, blood types a start, but then, we have the Alyssa Vatays and the Mindy Pells who are talking to us about cycle syncing and, fasting like a girl. And, you know, it can't, blood type can fit into that, but everything's in moderation. So if you're only eating your highly beneficials and that's it, that's not good for
Mm-hmm.
your hormones. So
Mm-hmm.
there's now, when I work with someone, I'm like, okay, we get the basics, we get the foundation, but then we go into your cycle because then we implement on how you should eat according to your phase because there's 4 phases. And most diets and exercise programs are built off of one gender. And if it's not, studies are done on women that are in their postmenopausal state. So there's no support for women like you and me. Well, there is now, but there wasn't before on how we can nourish ourselves and have painless periods and without PMS symptoms. And we can do that through food. We can do that through conscious movement. Um, and it's just a whole, I use blood type as a pathway for more. And it's like a restarter. It's when people kind of like get off track and you don't know where to go, well then go back to blood type and then you get back on track on where you're supposed to go. So, for you it's just the starting point that you've seen over the last however many days. Your skin's clearer, you're
Mm-hmm.
napping less, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of that is probably because you were overeating on chicken, because
Yes.
beef
I was eating chicken all the
chicken,
time.
and that's the number one consumed meat in the United States. Like
Crazy.
we get chicken from China. What are we doing getting chicken from China?
It's wild. We did too
It's
much.
wild. It's
Yeah.
wild. And
Yeah.
we are living, we live in this place where it's like obesity is a problem.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Inflammation is a problem.
Yeah.
Be-
That makes me think about exercise because I know you're an athlete. Do you train athletes, by the way? Do you work with athletes too?
no, not specifically.
Mm.
Honestly, I work with mostly like high executive, high earner entrepreneurs that have like lost their identity because of their job. I work with
Mm,
everybody, but
yes,
most people that come to me are,
it's in
typically
that
people
world.
that are very, very, very busy and don't know how to operate on their own anymore. It kind of sounds interesting, but
Yeah, no, that makes so much sense because I feel like when you get overwhelmed, like you
hmm
said, food is comfort, and so then you start
hmm
not even thinking. And also, the other thing is, we think some things are healthy, but to find out that, come to find out, that like,
we are not.
we are not eating like it's like some people should not be having green juice, like it's like actually like counterintuitive. So it's very interesting. Could you do the same thing with exercise that you did for food for each blood type for me, please? Because I feel that exercise to me is like such a big part of how I
hmm
feel regulated as a human being. Like I have to move every day in some way, whether that's like walking or,
hmm
could you share that too?
Yeah. So type O, rigorous exercise, high
Mhm.
intensity hit, sprint intervals, like whatever you want and you want to go out there and be a beast, go do it.
Okay.
High weight, like O's, they are beast mode. Type A, more gentle yoga, Pilates, Tai Chi, walking. Um, And then type B's balance, right? Strength
Hmm.
training, but also could do the yoga Pilates, but also can do the sprints. So a little bit of both is really good. Type AB, they're interesting because you just need to be more aware of cortisol. So, like, you want to make sure that your blood sugar levels are balanced before you do any type of exercise. Um, and don't do anything that's too overstrenuous. But again, they do well with the Pilates, strength training, yoga, but high intensity interval training, maybe not as much.
Okay. Okay. Um,
hmm
that's helpful. Thank you for that. Uh, do you feel like sometimes, um, the more aware you become, because sometimes I feel like I know so much. I'm like, am I also like, it's like the more you're aware of like what works and what doesn't work, does that also affect your digestion, you think too?
Yeah, I mean, the more you're aware, it can sometimes rob your peace.
That's rough.
Um, and that's what a lot of clients go through, to be honest.
Yeah.
Is just like, what do I eat? Is this okay? Like, food kind of becomes a threat, right?
Yeah.
Um, but and I went through it too. Like, I think it's just a part of the process of like you going through something to reach your goal.
Mm-hmm.
But as a coach, I'm also here to remind clients like, where the mind goes, the body follows. And sometimes you have to bring yourself back home, reminded that it's safe and that you're going through a transition period. So our self narrative can make or break us. And,
Mm-hmm.
the more aware we become, we have to make sure that we're balancing our perspective as like, okay, we're using this to add value to ourselves, add value to the people involved. And if it's not adding value, then we need to reflect or maybe just ignore those thoughts. So that's why, like, the second part of my program, which is the next 3 months, we really, really, really focus on mindset,
Mm-hmm.
because that is, food is foundation, but mindset is what makes things manifest.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I see that you pray and I pray a lot
hmm
too. So I just want to know, like, do you feel like that's a big part of keeping yourself balanced? Because I feel happier. Um and I think that, like, I don't know, vibrationally, and I feel like, I don't know, I feel all of this is connected. I think also spiritually, like, if you pray, you feel a little bit more connected. I don't know. I just want to know more about your faith, to be honest. I'm curious.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's been a journey. Um,
Mm.
I wasn't raised. I, It's funny because I'm like, okay, God, you testing me right now?
Yeah, you're like, what's up?
Um,
He's like, be honest. Tell the truth.
yeah.
Yeah.
Um, so I wasn't raised in the church. In
Yeah.
fact, we would go to church sometimes and I would identify church by like the food that we would get there.
Okay.
So
Okay.
there was a church. There was a church that my mom would take us to, and I only remember it because they would serve us donuts after church,
Okay.
which is crazy to me now that I am who I am. Um, but we always prayed at night, the normal the Lord's Prayer,
Mm.
and then kind of just like lost my way through high school. Wasn't really spiritually connected. Was always very spiritually like innate, just knew that I was a spiritual being because I was a dancer. And,
Okay.
I think dancers, ice skaters, like typically have this like sixth sense, also known as proprioception. But it's then, as I got older and started trying to like make my own decisions based off my feelings, that's when like God was like, let's get you back and you need to know me. And I want to say, I moved to New York, became very spiritually invested in Christianity.
Mhm.
And that's when God like really introduced me to who like he is.
Mm.
And that's how I like established a relationship. Um and I was pretty consistent and then it started to change. um when did it start to change? So I came back from New York to Denver and then went to Israel
Mm.
and was like told like don't tell anybody out there that you believe in Jesus. Brought my
Mm.
Bible, had it like hidden in a pillowcase, but was immersed in this very orthodox Jewish culture and practiced the Sabbath and really for 3 months was just immersed into this culture and was very intrigued by like how superstitious they still are, like how like they are rooted in principle, but like
Mm.
um don't believe in Jesus, but also like believe in like energies. So I was like, this is very interesting. And then came back to Denver and got back in the church, but then kind of like lost my way a little bit. Um and really focused on like my own self-healing through like generational trauma. So there's a book, and I know you asked me about my books, but I'm going to mention one now.
Mm.
Um is The Road Less Traveled by
Okay.
M. Scott Peck. Because I think for me, like I come from a divorced family. Between both of my parents, there's been a total of 5 divorces. And I had a lot of like internal trauma that I needed to sort through. And so that's when I started to like kind of go into this like self-help lane. And then still reading scripture, but not connected to church and just not really like, hey, asking God, what is your will? More so just like, how can I be a good person? How can I overcome my trauma? How can I like
Mhm.
go to the next level and leave my past behind? And then I started working for, Tata Harper and started getting into this holistic world, was very clean internally. So now like my whole spiritual world was changing. Um, and but then I got really intrigued with science
Mhm.
and was like, taking all these courses, did a course with Amen Clinics and on, just the brain and how it works and how to protect it. And just realized like, man, like no wonder some scientists and some doctors don't believe in God and don't believe in Jesus because
Mhm.
like according to like this paper, if we're looking at it black and white, like you can't really pray someone's way to good health when they've experienced like a brain injury or, a traumatic brain injury that's caused them to be schizophrenic or bipolar. And, this happened when they were 6 months old, like I was just like, wow, like this is very interesting. And then with my clients, I was attracting people that weren't necessarily believers of Jesus or believers of God. And I didn't want them to feel like I was going to be the Jesus freak, trying to convince them to come to the other side. I wanted them to feel safe and feel open. Um, and I was kind of like living my life in this limbo, but also like very interested in what everybody else was doing. Like I knew that I was a spiritual person, but I just started to question like, okay, is Jesus real? I didn't recognize my notes in my Bible. Like who was this 25-year-old woman that like had such wisdom? Like I can't even really understand the text anymore. And then I went to Woman Evolve last year, September. And, my husband, a man of God, like the most humble and loyal servant ever. And he really introduced me to the church in Dallas because we were living in Dallas when we got married. And, me still just kind of like floating, but he's just like trusted that, God's going to do everything you're going to do for my wife. And went back to Woman Evolve last September, and God just like smacked me in the face and was like,
Yeah.
girl, you're gonna create a company called Balcony People. You're gonna be
Wow.
serving time in schools and the youth and like really unlocking people and
Mm.
thinking that you're not gonna have me in the center of it. I was like, okay, like, and completely,
No, because it
just,
really feels like that. It's like, okay, all
yeah,
right.
yeah, yeah,
So I gotta
like,
talk about you too a little bit. All right.
yeah, like I
Yeah.
had to, yeah. So I really just was humbled, like spent, the
Mm.
first 6 months of 2025, like repenting and renewing and going through this sanctification. And, um, now just like in this space of where I can't not talk about God because of everything that he's brought me out
Mm.
of and everything that he's, done for me. Like everything that I've prayed for, I have, everything that
Mm.
I'm doing, I wrote down on paper, like, and, everything that's coming to me is what I prayed for. So it's just, and I think too, most importantly, like when I translate it into my coaching is, there's no relationship in science. And but there's relationship and spirituality is one pillar to the circle of life. And if you're addressing nutrition, career, relationships, sleep, home and leaving out spirituality, you're never going to fulfill the job. Not as a coach, not as a client, not as a positive societal contributor. Like if you're leaving the divine, the creator of everything out of what you're doing, you're just going to recycle and wonder why it's not working. And,
Mhm.
that's kind of like what I wouldn't say that I ever got to that point where like nothing was working. Cause I have a very discerning spirit, but I've gotten to this place where I'm like, okay, I put God first. I ask the right questions instead of asking what's your will for my life. I'm like, God, what is your will? How do you want to use me in this person's life? If it's a client that, can be sometimes draining, just like I'm sensitive to energies too. I'm like,
Mm.
okay, God, please anoint me with your covering, your protection, but use me so that they can find you through me. So,
Mm.
that's a very long way of me explaining where I am in my faith, but like I'm a believer of Christ, a follower of Jesus, regardless of what this country, has painted of Christianity, because it is an ugly picture.
Mhm.
I'm often humbled at like, well, it doesn't matter what everybody else is doing. Paul says, and I don't know if it's Hebrews or Corinthians. I'm not that good at, quoting Bible scriptures, but it's like he said, don't look left and don't look right. Just look forward and don't worry about what everybody else is doing. You just
Mm.
focus on me.
I love this so much. No, it's so beautiful that you share that, because I think, like, to your point, I agree with you on spirituality. I feel like there's like it's like when you're searching and trying to figure out what it is exactly, you know, what you're supposed to do in life, because it feels like there's so many opportunities and options and things like that, but like there's discernment and then there's understanding and having a relationship with God. And I feel like when you do, then you feel more peace no matter what's going on. Like you could have a
Mm-hmm.
lot, you could have a little, you could have, you know what I mean? Because it always goes like this, especially as an entrepreneur. Like I feel like your life is
Mm-hmm.
like, you know, it's always in flow. And so I think I feel similar to you, where I feel like I've had kind of a very interesting year, but especially over the past like few months. Even my conversations have changed. Like I never asked questions about spirituality on this show in the very beginning. Or like, what is your relationship with God? Like I never did that.
Yeah.
But now I'm like, I'm
Yeah.
curious because I'm like, I see how God changes people's lives. And like
Mm-hmm.
how, how he's changing mine. And it's not only just like what's actually happening, but it's also the perspective and the peace and the ability to be able to like sleep through the night, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And so
Yeah.
like, I think it's a very important part of why I feel called or interested. And I love that you feel comfortable also sharing that part of you, because for me, it was very much a decision to share some of this, because I think like in the past, it was like, this is my work. This is what I do.
Mm-hmm.
This is, I'm going to pray, but like, I'm not really going to tell everybody about that because I don't want everybody to feel uncomfortable, you know?
Mm-hmm.
But to the point of what you're saying, I feel like I got a message like, hey, you got to talk about me too. Like, you can't just
Mm-hmm.
be talking about what you're learning and, and
Mm-hmm.
not say that, this is,
Mm-hmm.
you know, that I'm
Yeah.
involved, like, and leading
Yeah.
it. And so, yeah, so I appreciate you sharing the journey, because I think that's so important. Yeah.
It is. It is. And it's what people need. It
Mm-hmm.
really is.
I agree. I agree. Do you feel that because part of what's been happening on these past the past year, but also the past couple years, is like, learning about blood sugar, learning about Ayurvedic, learning about TCM, learning about the Korean 8 type system, and like now learning about blood type. I felt like it was like they all are kind of saying the same thing, but I
Mm-hmm.
felt like blood type was like the one that made sense from a Western perspective for me,
Mm-hmm.
that actually like clicked. Do you feel that way, or do you feel like it's its own thing?
No, I definitely agree with you. I think that they all do one thing, which is like put people in these subgroups,
Yeah.
and also that we should recognize ourselves as bio individuals,
Mhm.
and that there's not one way to do something, especially when it comes to nutrition, exercise, and self-care,
Yeah.
wellness. Um, but I think what is probably most resonating for us here in the United States is blood type at least gives us a map to what we should be doing, because this is a $1 billion industry right here in wellness is, and we're all constantly coming out with new products that cost a lot of money at the end of the day. And I think, and also, if it's not costing a lot of money, food is around us 24/7. We're constantly eating.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
everything is done around food, alcohol. It's Everything is around stimulation. And so what I find is most interesting and most successful, the people I've worked with and I've talked about, is just like, if someone can actually have an understanding of how to make empowering choices while in the midst of this very food accessible country,
Mhm.
that's how you create longevity. And that's probably what is most successful for you, just because it's like it gives you this point of like, okay, I can make a decision. It can be a yes or a no,
Mhm.
because it either fits into one of three of these categories.
Mhm.
And it's a no because I know it's not going to make me feel good. But even if it's highly beneficial, especially as a type B, like I said, hyper simulator, even if you're eating beef, you need to make sure that it's a grass fed, grass finished beef. Because why? Conventional cows are fed corn. What is an inflammatory food for a type B? Corn. So
Mm.
it goes deeper. And, it also helps us be more mindful of like the producers that we're supporting, the farmers that we're supporting. Like, regenerative culture is hopefully emerging again. But these animals are not happy animals. So like if you're eating meat, make sure you're eating like a happy cow. And forgive me for people that, are vegans and have their animal welfare reasons, but like you want to eat meat that's lived a life outside, that lives like you, like us, like that has
Mm-hmm.
the freedom of choice and is fed and loved and cared for and around their friends and family, not in, you know, cow prison. Like
Yeah.
it's because they, just like us, store their emotions in their soft tissues.
Mm.
And that's what we're eating. I know I'm probably grossing so many people out right now, but it's really important information. Like, I don't even buy my food from Whole Foods anymore in terms of meat.
Mm. Okay, where do you go? Farmers market?
Mm,
What do you do?
yes.
Yeah.
So there's a guy I met at a farmer's market who opened a shop, a butcher shop that
Mm.
is a farmer that's 3 hours away up
Okay.
north.
Okay.
So regenerative, farm to table, local. And I've been doing that since 2019. So I did it in Dallas, where they got a lot of their stuff from the Carolinas.
Mm-hmm.
Because you'll find like there's certain pockets that don't have regenerative farmers. People don't have those choices. So they'll bring them over from like, there's some in Kansas, North Carolina, South Carolina, lots in like upstate New York. Um, or up the East Coast, and a lot here in Florida.
Okay. Do we have access to that too here in California, no? Regenerative farmers, so we should look that up.
Yeah, it's gonna be more north.
Okay. Okay. This is so
But
helpful.
yeah, yeah, it's definitely like regenerative farming with, regenerative farming practices. So it's all gonna be labeled as long as it's 100% grass fed, grass finished, 100% pasture raised, poultry, turkey, and eggs. And then your dairy is A2A2. Because what happens is most dairy products remove lactase, and you need lactase to digest lactose. And
Oh.
yeah, so that's, processed dairy removes that. But A2A2 gives you that full fat dairy that is unprocessed and has all the enzymes to help you digest dairy.
So lactose free is actually not what you need. You need, or is it,
Well,
am I right on that? Yeah.
lactose free means there's like no dairy, but most
Oh,
conventional dairy, yeah, lactose is where
they actually take
there's
out the dairy.
the bacteria
I
that makes
see.
it dairy. And then
Mm.
lactate is what helps you digest lactose. So like cheddar cheese, like from a brand, like I don't even know the conventional brands anymore. Um, which, you know, maybe we don't even need to call any brands out, but there's brands in the store that you can buy like cheddar cheese or mozzarella cheese where they remove lactate, which we actually need to digest lactose, which a lot of people have dairy intolerances because of that.
This is so, oh my gosh, this is so interesting. Okay, so can you tell me the difference between, I just want to understand in terms of working with you. So someone can work with you one on one, which is outside of balcony people, or they can be part of the group. Can you help me understand different ways that
Yeah.
people can actually work with you? Yeah.
Okay. So let's talk about
Okay.
balcony people.
Okay.
First, there's two types of people in the world: balcony people and
Okay.
basement people.
And basement
Balcony
people.
people balcony people lift you up regardless of their circumstances,
Okay. I
and
like that.
basement people pull you down to their
Mm,
level, to whatever they're
mm,
going through. So balcony people, I'm a balcony person. just based off our conversation today, I would consider you a balcony person. And we are a premium wellness concierge that's dedicating to detoxing the bodies, lives, and lifestyles of families and individuals. We have an array of wellness services such as integrative nutrition health coaching. That's where I come in. And, we have skincare consults. We have, detox your home, detox your beauty products, your fridge, your pantry. We have holistic parent coaching. So people which is a very more increasingly popular thing where people are like, I have no idea what I'm doing. I need someone to help me to be a more impactful parent. Or I'm thinking about having kids. Like, can you please prep me for this? Because it's a huge, huge thing.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking from experience. And
Yeah, you have two beautiful ones. Yeah.
um and so if someone wants to work with me as with health coaching and wanting to transform their life, I do one-on-one health coaching. So integrative nutrition bridges the gap between emotional and nutritional wellness. And then my sub niche is blood type. So it's just a strategy. It's how we help you, reach those physical goals that everyone comes thinking that that's all that they want to accomplish. Or, they come to me with, I've tried this, this, and this, and nothing's working. So this is just like kind of how I kickstart the program without putting someone on a meal plan, because I don't believe in meal plans. Meal plans are temporary. My
Mm-hmm.
coaching program is set up to get you comfortable so that in 6 months you can walk into this life that you've always dreamt of, and you don't need anyone else to help you. Like, you can do it on your own, because I'm going to be a guide. So if you're interested in health coaching, go to balconypeople.com, contact us, and let me know what service you're interested in. You fill out a form. And yeah, it's a 6-month program. First 3 months focus on nutrition. Next 3 months focus on mindset and behavioral awareness. And most people, I always ask, like, what's your definition of health at the beginning? And then I'm like, how has your definition of health changed? And most people are like, I want a simple life where I've learned self-advocacy, and I have this new self-awareness for my needs and how to nourish them. So yeah, I think that was your question.
Yeah,
Hopefully I answered.
exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, that's so great. Um, I want to ask one more follow-up to that. There is like a membership program. Is that
Yes.
part of what you just explained?
Hmm.
I just want to make sure I understand.
Yeah, thank you for asking that. So it's a subscription. So I had mentioned that, my one-on-one health coaching is usually for a specific group of people.
Hmm.
And I created the Balcony People Wellness Circle because I wanted to bridge the gap between um health and wealth. I feel like we all deserve, no matter how much our income is, um, to live in alignment with healthy, lifestyles, and regardless of our resources. And if someone's on a limited resource budget, you know, they're they can absolutely live a life just like anyone else. And so the Balcony People subscription does just that. It is a monthly subscription or annual, where we meet as a group once a month and we have a live coaching session. It's kind of like a master class. There's a one-time one-on-one consult with me so that I can get more data and learn, what everybody's wanting to accomplish.
Hmm.
Um, just so it can be more personalized. And, you receive a monthly wellness guide, recipe guide, working on a WhatsApp forum so that we can all stay connected. But yeah, my intention was just, I want to serve more people on a larger scale, regardless of what they're doing, and, make people feel more empowered to make better decisions around food.
Yeah, I mean, this is amazing. I'm I'm so drawn to the work that you're doing, and I really, really just like, I feel um very strongly that I already feel like you have a very strong voice and people know who you are, but I really feel like a worldwide thing for you. Like
Thank
you
you.
really,
I received
yeah,
that.
you just have this ability to be able to explain things in a way that it just catapulted my understanding of self, which I just feel so grateful for. And I'm so happy that I met you. Thank you so much for making the time to be here today. I really
Thank you
appreciate
for
it.
having me. I can't wait to meet in person. You
Same,
know,
same. We will do that.
yeah,
We will do that
yeah,
for sure.
yeah, yeah. So thank you. I mean, your voice is a light. I mean, you are a light, and
Thank you.
you make people feel comfortable about talking about what means most to them. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for listening and for being a part of my village. Please leave us a review, and I will see you in the next episode.